Daniel locked the door while I stood barefoot in the snow, and through the glass, I watched his mistress wrap herself in my mother's white cashmere coat. "Stop making a scene, Emma," he said from the other side, his voice flat, almost bored. "Chloe is freezing. You can wait outside until you learn how to behave." I looked at the woman by the fireplace, at the coat my mother had worn the last winter before she died, and something inside me went very quiet. I did not scream again, I did not pound on the door. I lifted my shaking hand, opened my phone with numb fingers, saved the message Daniel had sent me 10 seconds earlier, and pressed the one number he believed I would never dare to call. The Hale family, the family he thought I had lost. Daniel had rented the mountain house for what he called a celebration weekend. His company had just landed a major luxury hotel contract, and according to him, the people who had stood by him from the beginning deserved a private winter retreat before the public. Anniversary gala the following week. I should have known I was not included in that sentence. I had stood by him from the beginning, but in Daniel's language, that meant I had cooked while he worked late, transferred money when payroll was short, smiled through investor dinners, stayed home when his mother needed surgery, and disappeared whenever he needed to look like a self-made man. Chloe Vaughan had been his assistant for 11 months. She arrived at the mountain house in cream boots, a pale blue sweater, and the soft, helpless smile of a woman who never carried her own bags because she knew someone would always rush to take them. Daniel took hers before he took mine. "Careful," Chloe said, laughing lightly as snow gathered in her hair. "I packed too much." "You always do," Daniel said. It was such an intimate answer. Casual, practiced. I stood behind them with 2 grocery bags cutting into my fingers and watched my husband lower Chloe's suitcase inside the entryway like it held something precious. His mother, Linda Pierce, was already in the living room, wrapped in a grey shawl beside the fireplace. She looked at Chloe and smiled. "There she is, our lifesaver." Chloe pressed one hand to her chest. "Mrs. Pierce, please, I only reorganized the client presentation." "You saved Daniel's week," Linda said. Then she looked at me. "Emma, did you bring the wine?" "No, hello, no thank you for driving 3 hours through snow with groceries because Daniel had forgotten to arrange dinner." "Yes," I said, lifting one bag. Daniel did not notice. He was helping Chloe out of her coat. The house was beautiful in that cold, polished way expensive rentals often are. Floor-to-ceiling windows faced a black line of pine trees. Snow was already thick on the deck. The roof creaked in the wind. Inside, the fireplace threw warm orange light over stone walls, leather chairs, and a long dining table set for 8. Daniel's younger brother and his wife were coming later. 2 investors might stop by if the road stayed open. Chloe apparently had been invited because Daniel said he needed work support. I had stopped asking why his assistant needed to attend family weekends. Asking only gave him another chance to call me insecure. I carried groceries into the kitchen. Chloe followed me with empty hands. "This place is gorgeous," she said. "Daniel has such good taste." I put the wine on the counter. "The rental was booked through my account." She blinked, then smiled wider. "Right, of course. That was Chloe's talent. She never argued directly. She let every insult dissolve into sweetness, then carried it back to Daniel as proof that I was sharp, jealous, unstable." Dinner moved like a slow bruise. Daniel talked about his contract. Linda praised him. Chloe filled in little details only someone deeply embedded in his days would know. "He barely slept Tuesday," she said, touching his sleeve. "I had to force him to eat." Daniel smiled into his wineglass. "You exaggerate." "I do not," she said. "You are impossible when you are focused." I cut roasted carrots into neat pieces and remembered the Tuesday she meant. I had been at Daniel's mother's house, changing Linda's bandage because her nurse had cancelled. Daniel had texted me at midnight asking if I could transfer $12,000 to cover a vendor deposit before morning. "No please, no explanation, just need it tonight." I had sent it at the table. He did not mention that. Around 9, the wind grew worse. Snow hit the windows in hard white bursts. Linda complained about the draft, and Chloe curled into herself on the sofa. "I am so cold," she whispered. Daniel stood immediately. "There are blankets upstairs." "I am fine," Chloe said, though she shivered dramatically. "Really?" Linda looked toward me. "Emma, you brought that white coat, did you not? The thick one." My fork paused. The white coat was hanging in the mudroom closet. It had belonged to my mother, real cashmere, ivory white, with pearl buttons and a small embroidered H inside the collar. My mother had worn it in the last photograph I had of us together. I only brought it because Daniel had told me the weekend would include formal photos for the company's holiday profile. "No," I said. Daniel looked up. "You did, I saw it in the car. I brought it for tomorrow." So let Chloe use it for a few minutes, Linda said. She is shaking. She can use a blanket. Chloe lowered her eyes. Please do not fight over me, I am already embarrassed. No, she was not. Daniel pushed his chair back. Emma, it is a coat. It was my mother's. His face tightened. He hated when I mentioned my mother, not because he cared that it hurt me, but because grief was one of the few places where he could not fully control the story. I know what it is, he said, and I am asking you to be kind. I am asking your assistant not to wear my dead mother's coat. The room went quiet. Chloe's eyes filled with tears so fast I almost admired the skill. I did not know, she whispered. You know now, I said. Daniel's jaw flexed. Enough. He went to the mudroom. Himself I stood before I could stop myself. Daniel, he opened the closet. Do not. He took out the coat for a second. The whole room narrowed to that piece of white fabric in his hands. I saw my mother stepping out of a cab in Boston, laughing as snow caught in her dark hair. I saw her bending down to button the coat around me when I was 6. I saw her hospital room years later, the coat folded over a chair because she had been too weak to wear it home. Daniel carried it to Chloe. Chloe stood slowly. I really do not need it, but she put her arms through the sleeves. She pulled my mother's coat around her body. Daniel smiled at her. Better, much. Chloe said. Something hot rose into my throat. Take it off, I said. Daniel turned. Do not start. Take it off now. Linda slammed her wineglass down. For heaven's sake, Emma, it is Christmas week. Must you poison every room? It is my coat. It is Daniel's house this weekend, Linda said. I laughed once. I could not help it. No, it is not. I booked it. I paid the deposit. I bought the food. I drove here. Daniel stepped close. Lower your voice. Chloe clutched the coat tighter. Daniel, maybe I should just go upstairs. No, he said, still looking at me. You stay. There it was, his choice, not hidden, not softened, not wrapped in excuses about work or kindness or timing. Chloe stayed. I was the problem. I walked toward her and held out my hand. Give me the coat. Daniel blocked me. You are acting insane, he said. I want my mother's coat back. You want to humiliate Chloe. She is wearing my dead mother's coat while sleeping with my husband. The words landed like a plate breaking. Linda gasped. Chloe went pale. Daniel's face turned flat and dangerous. You need air, he said. Before I understood what he meant, his hand closed around my upper arm. Daniel, let go. He pulled me toward the entryway. I stumbled once near the rug. My bare feet hit cold tile. I had taken off my boots after dinner. My phone was in my sweater pocket. My coat, the one I needed, was wrapped around Chloe. Daniel, I said, sharper. Now, stop. He opened the front door. Wind burst in like a living thing. Snow swept across the floor. Cool off, he said. Then he pushed me outside. Not hard enough to throw me down, just hard enough to make his meaning clear. The door shut, the lock turned. For 3 seconds, I simply stood there. The porch light buzzed above me. Snow struck my face. The cold went through my thin sweater so quickly it felt unreal. I turned and grabbed the handle. Locked. I knocked once. Daniel, inside, through the tall window. Beside the door, I saw him stand with one hand on the knob. Open the door. He did not. Behind him, Chloe stood near the fireplace in my mother's coat. Linda said something I could not hear. Daniel took out his phone. Mine buzzed. A message appeared. Daniel, stop embarrassing me. Stay out there until you calm down. I stared at it. The cold sharpened everything. For 6 years I had explained him to myself. He was stressed. He was ambitious. He did not mean it. His mother manipulated him. Chloe was chasing him and he was too flattered to see it. But there, barefoot in the snow while his mistress wore my mother's coat, there was nothing left to explain. I took a screenshot of the message, then another. Then I opened the camera and recorded 10 seconds of the locked door. Daniel inside, Chloe by the fire. My fingers were already stiff. Battery 9%. There was one number in my phone I had never called. It had been saved under a name I had not spoken aloud in years. Grandmother Hale. My father had told me the Hales abandoned us after my mother died. He said they were cold people, rich people, people who only cared about reputation. He said if I ever called them, they would remind me I was unwanted. After he died, I kept the number anyway. A last thread, a door I was afraid to open. Snow gathered on my eyelashes. Inside, Daniel turned away from the door. My thumb pressed call. It rang once, twice. On the third ring, a woman answered. Emma. My knees nearly gave out. The voice was older than I remembered, but I knew it. From childhood, calm, low, careful with pain. Grandmother. I whispered. A pause, then the voice changed. Where are you? I looked through the glass at my husband, at Chloe wearing my coat, at the family that had watched him lock me outside. I need help, I said. Daniel locked me out in the snow. My grandmother did not ask if I was sure, she did not ask what I had done to upset him, she did not tell me to calm down, she said, "Give me the address." I tried, the cold had already started stealing pieces of me. My lips would not shape words cleanly. I knew the rental was near Black Pine Ridge, 15 minutes past the old lodge road, but Daniel had handled the final directions from his phone. "I do not know the house number," I said, and hated the thin panic in my voice. "Listen to me, Emma," my grandmother said. "Open your location settings. My battery is low. Do it now." My fingers shook so badly that I dropped the phone into the snow. For 1 second the screen went white under powder, and terror tore through me. I grabbed it, wiped it against my sweater, and forced myself to breathe. Location sharing, send to Margaret Hale. The phone stayed alive. "Got it," she said. "Stay on the line." Wind screamed around the porch, snow blew under the roof and collected over my bare feet. I curled my toes, but they were already numb. I knocked again, harder this time. Daniel appeared in the window. I lifted the phone so he could see I was calling someone. His expression shifted, irritation first, then suspicion. The door opened 3 inches, held by the chain lock. "Who are you calling?" he asked. "My grandmother." For a second he stared, then he laughed. "You do not have a grandmother." The words were so cruel, so certain, that I stopped shivering for one strange second. "Yes," I said, "I do." His eyes moved to the phone. "Emma, hang up." I stepped back from the door. "Open it. Not until you stop this performance." Behind him, Chloe called softly. "Daniel, maybe let her in, she looks cold." She said it for the room, not for me. Daniel looked over his shoulder. "Stay out of this." Then to me, lower, "You are making yourself look unstable. My grandmother heard you." That wiped the arrogance off his face. He reached for the chain. I should have moved toward warmth. I should have grabbed the door and forced my way in. But something in me had crossed a line. If I stepped back inside under his terms, he would rewrite it before morning. Emma got emotional. Emma stepped outside. Emma refused to come in. Emma scared Chloe. No, I stepped farther back onto the snowy path. Daniel opened the door wider now. "Emma." I held up my phone and kept recording. "Say it again," I said. His eyes narrowed. "Say what?" "Say I need to stay outside until I calm down." He looked past me toward the driveway, perhaps remembering there were neighbors somewhere beyond the trees. "Do not be stupid." That was when headlights appeared through the snow, not from the main road, from the house across the ridge. An older man in a heavy parka came through the storm. With a flashlight in one hand and a phone in the other. He called. "Are you hurt?" Daniel's posture changed instantly. "Everything is fine." He called. "My wife and I had an argument." The man kept walking toward me. "Are you hurt?" I tried to answer, but my teeth struck together too hard. He looked down at my feet. "Jesus." He muttered into his phone. He said, "She is barefoot, possible hypothermia. I need that ambulance now." Daniel stepped onto the porch. "Sir," I said, "we are fine." The older man put himself between us. "No, you said that." She did not. Through the doorway, I saw Linda standing in the living room with one hand pressed to her mouth, and Chloe, still in the coat. My mother's white coat looked almost golden in the firelight. I lifted my phone again and took a photograph. Chloe noticed. Her hand flew to the collar. Too late. The ambulance arrived 10 minutes later, though it felt like an hour. By then, I was sitting in the neighbor's heated truck with a blanket over my shoulders and my feet wrapped in towels. The older man's name was Peter Calloway. He lived in the next property year-round and had received a call from my grandmother's security office after they traced the nearest residence. My wife saw the porch light flicking through the snow. He said, "Then your people called." "Your people?" I had not had people in so long, the words almost hurt. Daniel tried to climb into the truck. Mr. Calloway locked the door. Daniel knocked on the window. "Emma, open the door." I looked at him through fogged glass. For years that face had been home, not because he deserved it, but because I had built home around him piece by piece. Dinner plates, clean shirts, remembered birthdays, forgiven absences. Money moved quietly from my account to his. My body beside him in bed even when my heart was lonely. Now he looked like a stranger, angry at losing access to a room. The paramedics arrived in thick jackets, carrying bags, and a stretcher they did not end up needing. They checked my temperature, my blood pressure, my feet, my hands. "How long was she outside?" one asked. Daniel answered. 5 minutes, Mr. Calloway said. "At least 20, maybe more." I whispered. "I have the message." The paramedic turned to me. "What message?" I showed him. "Stop embarrassing me. Stay out there until you calm down." His face hardened, professionally but visibly. Daniel saw it. "Emma," he said. "That was not literal." I laughed, but it came out like a cough. The paramedic helped me out of the truck. Daniel reached for my elbow. I pulled away. Do not touch me. His hand froze in the air. Linda came onto the porch wearing boots now, wrapped in a coat that was not mine. Emma, please, she said, her voice trembling with anger disguised as concern. You are making this into something ugly. I looked behind her. Where is my coat? Linda's mouth tightened. Chloe appeared then, slowly, as if stepping onto a stage. She had finally removed it. The white coat hung over her arm. I am so sorry, she said. I never wanted any of this. I looked at the coat. There was a faint smear of lipstick near the collar. My mother's collar. I said nothing. The paramedic guided me toward the ambulance. Daniel followed. I am coming with my wife. No, I said. He stopped. Emma, you can bring the coat to the hospital, I said. Give it to the nurse. Do not come into my room. His face went still for the first time that night. He understood I was not asking. At the hospital, they put warm blankets around me and checked my feet for frostbite, mild hypothermia. The doctor said no permanent damage if I rested and followed instructions. My toes burned as they warmed, a deep ugly pain that made my eyes water. A nurse asked if I felt safe at home. Daniel was standing just outside the curtain, arguing with someone on the phone. I heard him say, "It was a misunderstanding. She is emotional." I turned to the nurse. "No," I said. "I do not feel safe." She did not blink. She wrote it down. That mattered. Everything mattered now. The time of arrival, the condition of my feet, the neighbor's statement, the text, the photo of Chloe in the coat, the call to my grandmother. Daniel tried to enter the room 20 minutes later. The nurse stopped him. "She is my wife," he said. "She has declined visitors." The nurse replied, "She is upset. She has declined visitors." I lay under 3 blankets and watched him through the gap in the curtain. He looked offended, not frightened for me, not ashamed, offended, as if I had broken a rule by making his behavior visible. My phone had died in the ambulance. A nurse charged it for me behind the desk. When it turned back on, there were 17 messages from Daniel. "Emma, answer me. This is going too far. My mother is crying. Chloe feels terrible. You know I would never hurt you. You walked away from the door. Do not talk to anyone until I get there." That last one I saved twice. At 2:14 a.m., the hospital room door opened. A woman in a long black coat stepped inside. She was 81 years old, silver-haired, straight-backed, and colder than the storm outside. Her eyes were my mother's eyes. Behind her stood a man in his 40s and a woman carrying a leather folder. My grandmother stopped at the foot of my bed. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then Margaret Hale removed her gloves. "Oh, Emma," she said. The sound of my name in her mouth broke something I had kept sealed for 20 years. I did not sob loudly. I did not reach for her like a child, but tears slid into my hair. "I did not know if you would come," I whispered. Her face changed. Pain moved through it, old and sharp. "We never stopped waiting for you to call." The woman with the folder stepped forward. "Emma, my name is Marianne Brooks. I am your grandmother's attorney. I know this is a difficult time, but I need to ask one question before your husband tries to control the record." Daniel's voice rose in the hallway. "Where is she? Who are these people?" Marianne looked at the door, then back at me. "Do you want us to protect you from him?" I thought of the lock turning. I thought of Chloe by the fire. I thought of my mother's coat in another woman's hands. "Yes," I said. The door opened before anyone could stop it. Daniel stepped inside, angry and pale. Then he saw my grandmother. His expression folded in on itself. Margaret Hale looked at him as if he were dirt on a clean floor. "You must be the man who left my granddaughter outside to freeze," she said. Daniel recovered quickly. That was one of the reasons he had survived in business. He could rearrange his face faster than most people could rearrange their thoughts. "Mrs. Hale," he said. Though I had never told him her name, he must have recognized it from the kind of circles he wanted to enter. "This is not what it looks like." Margaret did not move. "It looks like my granddaughter is in a hospital bed. We had an argument. You locked the door." She stepped outside. I lifted my phone. "He texted me to stay outside." Daniel's eyes flashed. "Emma, do not do this." My grandmother turned to him slowly. "Do what?" He swallowed. Marianne Brooks opened her folder. "Mr. Pierce, Mrs. Pierce has declined visitors. You need to leave." His head jerked toward me. "Mrs. Pierce." The old me would have flinched at that tone. The old me would have heard the warning beneath it. "Do not embarrass me. Do not make me look bad. Do not forget who gives you a home." But I was lying in a hospital bed because the home he gave me had a locked door. "I want you to leave," I said. Daniel stared at me. "I will wait outside until you are ready to talk." "No," I said. "You will go back to the rental. You will give my coat to Ms. Brooks. Then you will wait for written communication." He actually laughed. "Written communication, Emma. We are married." "Yes," I said. That is the problem. The silence that followed was clean and brutal. Daniel looked at my grandmother again, recalculating. Mrs. Hale, I respect your concern, but you have been out of Emma's life for a very long time. You do not know how she gets when she is upset. Margaret's expression did not change. Do you? I am her husband, and yet you seem surprised she can speak. For the first time, Daniel had no answer. Security escorted him out after he refused to leave the hallway. I heard him tell the guard he was being treated like a criminal. The guard said, "Sir, step back." That sound settled over me like a blanket. Someone had told Daniel no, and the world had not ended. Marianne stayed after my grandmother went to speak with the doctor. She sat beside my bed and asked calm, precise questions. How long had I been outside? Did Daniel physically push me? Who witnessed Chloe wearing the coat? Were there cameras at the rental? Had Daniel ever locked me out before? Had he ever controlled money, transportation, medication, identification, or communication? I answered as best I could. Some answers embarrassed me more than others. No, he had never locked me out before. Yes, he had taken my car keys once after an argument because he said I was too emotional to drive. Yes, he had access to my personal account because I had given it to him during a company emergency and never removed him. Yes, I had transferred money to his business. How much? I hesitated. Marianne waited. Over 6 years, I said. Maybe 200,000, maybe more. Her pen paused. From marital income or premarital assets. My mother's life insurance, some inheritance, my savings before marriage. Do you have records? Yes. Good, she said. Do not delete anything. Do not warn him what you have. Do not meet him alone. Do not discuss divorce by phone. The word divorce should have hurt. Instead, it sounded like a door opening at dawn. My grandmother came back with coffee she did not drink. She stood beside the window, watching snow turn blue in the early light. I owe you an explanation, she said. I looked at her profile. She looked older than the last photograph I had, but not smaller, never smaller. My father said you abandoned us. Her eyes closed briefly. Your father cut contact after your mother died. He blamed us for encouraging her to leave him. My throat tightened. Leave him? Margaret turned. Your mother was planning to bring you home to us. She had spoken to an attorney. She was afraid of the way he controlled money, friends, everything. Then she became ill. After she died, your father moved, changed your school, changed your number. We tried for years. I stared at her. All my childhood grief shifted, not disappearing but changing shape. He told me you did not want me. He lied. I looked down at my hands. Daniel had not created that wound. He had only learned how to use it. When he told me no one else would love me with my baggage, I believed him because my father had planted the first seed. When Linda said family meant loyalty, I obeyed because I thought I had already failed one family. When Chloe smiled with my coat around her shoulders, I felt not just anger, but the old terror of being replaced and erased. Margaret stepped closer. I should have found another way, she said. I have lived with that failure. I wanted to be angry. Maybe later I would be, but at that moment I was too tired to hold another war. You came when I called, I said. Her mouth trembled once. Yes. By noon Daniel had changed strategies. Flowers arrived, white roses. The card read, let us not let one bad night destroy 6 years. I love you, D. I gave the card to Marianne. Keep the envelope too, she said. At 2 Linda called. I let it go to voicemail. Her message began with tears. Emma, sweetheart, everyone is so upset. Daniel has not slept. Chloe is devastated. I know you were frightened, but you must understand how this looks for him. The company is entering a very delicate week. Please do not involve outsiders. Family handles family privately. I saved that too. At 3 Chloe texted Emma, I am so sorry. I never meant to wear something so special. Daniel said you would not mind. I hope you can forgive both of us. I stared at the message for a long time. Daniel said you would not mind. That was how my whole marriage had worked. Daniel said I would not mind covering dinner. Daniel said I would not mind skipping the trip. Daniel said I would not mind lending money. Daniel said I would not mind his mother staying 3 months after surgery. Daniel said I would not mind Chloe coming to late meetings, private dinners, weekend retreats. He had turned my silence into permission. I forwarded the text to Marianne. Then I wrote back, do not contact me again except through counsel. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared, then nothing. In the evening Mr. Calloway came to the hospital with his wife. He carried a paper bag with thick socks and a pair of winter boots. My wife thought you might need these, he said awkwardly. I almost cried again, not because of the boots, because a stranger had noticed what my husband had ignored. Marianne took his statement in the hallway. He confirmed the time he found me, my condition, Daniel's claim that everything was fine, and Chloe's presence in the coat. He tried to speak for her, Mr. Calloway said. That bothered me. It bothered me too, though I had allowed it for years. That night, I was discharged to my grandmother's hotel suite. Instead of my marital home, Daniel waited near the hospital exit. He looked exhausted, unshaven, almost sincere, almost. Emma, he said, please, 5 minutes. My grandmother's driver stood beside the car. Marianne was behind me. I stopped at a safe distance. Daniel's eyes flicked to the people around me. You are really going to perform like this? He asked quietly. There he was, not sorry, angry that I had witnesses. I am going to rest, I said. We need to talk as husband and wife. You lost that privilege. When you locked me out, his mouth tightened. I opened the door. After I called for help, you called strangers before you called me. I looked at him, then really looked. You were inside. He had no answer for that either. The driver opened the car door. Daniel stepped closer. Emma, if you leave with them, this becomes bigger than us. It already is. He lowered his voice. Be careful, you do not know the Hales like I do. I almost laughed. You do not know them at all. His eyes hardened. And you do. After 20 years, I got into the car. Before the door closed, I said, no, but they opened the door. The first time I returned to the house, Daniel and I shared. I did not go alone. Marianne came with me, so did a private security consultant my grandmother used for family matters. A calm woman named Ruth who wore black boots and had the kind of face that made arguments feel pointless. Daniel was not home. His car was gone. That helped still. My hand shook when I unlocked the front door. The house smelled like cedar cleaner and Daniel's coffee. For 6 years, I had kept it warm, stocked, polished, alive. I knew which drawer stuck in the kitchen, which stair creaked, which window whistled during rain. I had painted the guest room myself because Daniel said hiring someone was a waste when I had such good hands. The deed was in both our names. The down payment had come mostly from me. Daniel called it our home when he needed me grateful. He called it his house when he needed me quiet. Ruth entered first and checked the rooms. Marianne stayed beside me in the foyer. Take what you need for 2 weeks, she said. Documents, personal items, sentimental items. Do not strip the house, do not damage anything. We are building a clean record. A clean record. I held on to that phrase. In the bedroom, Daniel's side of the closet looked untouched. Mine had been disturbed. Someone had moved my scarves. My jewelry drawer was open. I stood very still. Marianne noticed. What is missing? I checked piece by piece. My passport was there, my birth certificate, my mother's small velvet box with her earrings, but the top compartment where I kept the Hale signet ring was empty. The ring was old gold, engraved with a small H surrounded by laurel leaves. My mother had left it to me with a note. When you are ready to remember where you come from. I had never worn it. I had hidden it. Now it was gone. My ring. I said, what ring? I described it. Marianne wrote it down. Ruth checked the room with a flashlight, then photographed the drawer. No forced entry. Who has access? Daniel. His mother has a key. Chloe might. Saying Chloe's name in my bedroom made my stomach turn. Then I saw the perfume bottle on Daniel's dresser. Not mine. Small, expensive, floral beside it. One gold earring shaped like a leaf. Chloe had been here in my bedroom while I was in the hospital or before. A strange calm settled over me. I took photos. Ruth bagged the earring in the bathroom trash. I found a makeup wipe stained with pink lipstick in the guest bathroom. A long pale hair clung to a towel in the laundry room. One of Daniel's dress shirts carried the same perfume. Evidence did not roar, it waited. I packed slowly. Clothes, laptop, hard drives, my mother's letters, tax files, bank statements, the old folder where I kept every transfer I had ever made to Daniel's business. Because some small part of me had always known I might need proof. Marianne looked through the folder at the kitchen table. Her eyebrows lifted. Emma, I know. These are not small amounts. I know. There had been 40,000 from my savings for his first office lease, 25,000 from my mother's life insurance when he said a client payment was delayed, 15,000 for his mother's medical bills. Though Linda later told people Daniel had covered everything, 12,000 the week of the mountain trip, monthly credit card payments, vendor deposits, hotel retainers, wire transfers labeled temporary, loans without documents because he had kissed my forehead and said, "Do you really need paperwork between us?" Yes, I had needed paperwork. I opened my banking app and checked access permissions. Daniel still had view access to one account. His company card was linked to my backup payment method. Linda's pharmacy deliveries were billed to me. A recurring transfer went every month to Daniel's operating account. I stared at it. Then I cancelled it, a small action, one click, but my whole body reacted as if I had stepped off a cliff. Marianne saw my face. Good, she said. I cancelled Linda's pharmacy payment next. That one hurt more. Because Linda had used her illness like a leash, but she had a son she praised constantly, a son she said had built everything alone. Let him pay. Then I froze the shared credit card. Daniel had given Chloe access to 4 client errands. The bank representative asked if the card was lost or stolen. I looked at the earring on the table. Misused, I said. By evening, Daniel noticed. He called 9 times. I did not answer. Then he texted, Daniel, did you cancel the operating transfer? Daniel, Emma, payroll. Is Monday. Daniel, this is not a game. Daniel, my mother's medication payment failed. Daniel, call me now. I saved everything. Then I replied once, all financial communication must go through counsel. His answer came within seconds. Daniel, you are my wife, not a hostile investor. For the first time in days I smiled because that was exactly what frightened him. Not losing me, losing access. At 7, Chloe posted an Instagram story from a restaurant downtown, a manicured hand holding champagne. The caption read, "Some storms clear the way for better things." She was wearing my hail ring, not clearly, not intentionally perhaps, but the gold H flashed on her finger as she tilted the glass. My breath stopped. I showed Marianne. Her face turned cold. Screenshot it. I did. Then another, and another. When Chloe posted a second photo with Daniel's hand visible beside hers, he had taken her to dinner while I was collecting my life from our bedroom under the table. His wedding ring was gone. Mine was still on my finger. I looked at it. 6 years of marriage reduced to a band of metal and a habit of endurance. I removed it slowly. My finger looked pale beneath it for a moment. I remembered Daniel sliding it on in a small garden ceremony. He had cried that day, real tears. I thought he had said, "You are my home now." Maybe he had meant it. Maybe to him, home had always meant a place that opened, paid, forgave, waited, and never locked him out. I placed the ring in an envelope. Marianne labeled it with the date that night from my grandmother's suite. I emailed Daniel a formal notice of separation through Marianne. I expected anger. I got panic. Daniel, Emma, please do not do this. Daniel, Chloe means nothing. Daniel, I was confused. Daniel, I need you. I stared at the last message. Then I opened my folder of transfer records. He needed me. Yes, that had always been the closest thing to love. He understood. Chloe did not contact me after my warning. She performed instead. By morning, 3 mutual acquaintances had messaged to ask if I was all right, which meant Chloe had started spreading her version. I did not need to see her messages to know the shape of them. Emma had always been insecure. Emma hated that Daniel had female colleagues. Emma made a scene over a coat. Emma called powerful relatives to punish him. There was always a way to make a wounded woman sound dangerous if you described her bleeding as aggression. I said nothing publicly. Silence was not weakness anymore, it was strategy. Marianne arranged a meeting at her office. My grandmother came not to speak for me, but to listen. Ethan Hale arrived 10 minutes late with a laptop under his arm and snow melting on his coat. I remembered him as a tall teenage boy who let me ride on his back in my grandparents' garden. Now he was 42, broad-shouldered, quiet, with kind eyes and a lawyer's habit of reading before reacting. He hugged me carefully. "I am sorry," he said. "For what?" "For not finding you sooner." The Hales seemed determined to break me with apologies. I looked away. First, Marianne laid out the immediate plan: medical record, emergency response report, witness statement, text messages, photo of Chloe in the coat, house evidence, financial records, missing ring, Chloe's Instagram post. "We are not filing everything at once," she said. "We build leverage. We protect Emma. We prevent asset movement. Then we decide whether to pursue civil claims beyond divorce." My grandmother asked, "What about criminal exposure?" Marianne glanced at me. I understood the question. Daniel had pushed me out and locked the door in freezing conditions. Whether that became a criminal matter depended on evidence, local law, intent, and prosecutorial appetite. Marianne did not promise revenge she could not deliver. I appreciated that. "We preserve the option," she said. "First we secure her." Ethan turned his laptop toward me. I also looked at Chloe Vaughn. I stiffened. He raised a hand. "Only public records and corporate databases." Chloe had debts, credit cards, a lawsuit from a former roommate, 2 short stints at companies where she had left after disputes. Nothing dramatic enough to make her a cartoon villain, enough to show motive. Then Ethan opened a rental record: luxury apartment downtown, lease signed 8 months ago, monthly rent $5,800, payment source, Pierce Strategic Events operating account, I stared at the screen. That is Daniel's company account. Yes, Ethan said. But some deposits into that account line up with your transfers. Marianne leaned forward. We will need bank subpoenas eventually. For now. Emma, do you have records of those deposits? I have mine. That may be enough to start. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I let it go. A voicemail appeared. Marianne nodded for me to play it on speaker. Chloe's voice filled the room, soft and trembling. Emma, I know you told me not to call, but I cannot live with you thinking I am some monster. Daniel told me your marriage was over. He said you barely spoke. He said the coat was just a coat. I did not know he would lock you out. I would never have wanted that. Please do not ruin his life over one mistake. One mistake. My grandmother's hand closed around the head of her cane. Chloe continued. And about the ring, Daniel gave it to me. I thought it was from his family. I can return it if you stop making this public. I just want peace. The message ended. Marianne looked almost pleased. She admitted possession of the ring. Ethan nodded. And Daniel gave it to her. I should have felt rage. I felt something colder. Daniel had not only let Chloe wear my mother's coat, he had given her my mother's ring, the ring my mother had left with the note about remembering where I came from. He had taken the symbol of my history and handed it to his mistress like costume jewelry. My phone buzzed again. A photo from Chloe, the ring on a marble table. I am willing to return it, Emma. I never wanted your things. Below that, another message. But Daniel needs the company stable. Please think before you destroy everyone. I read it twice. There it was. Not apology, negotiation. She wanted my place, my coat, my ring, my house, my husband, and my silence, but she did not want consequences. I forwarded everything. Then I typed, "You will return all property through my attorney." I did not add please. That afternoon, Daniel showed up at Marianne's office without an appointment. Reception called back before letting him into the conference area. Marianne asked if I wanted to leave through the private exit. I surprised myself. No, I will see him here. Daniel entered wearing the navy overcoat I had bought him for our 5th anniversary. He looked tired, but handsome in the way that had once made me forgive too much. He held a small velvet pouch. He placed it on the table. "Your ring," he said. I did not touch it. Marianne did. She opened the pouch, photographed the ring and documented its return. Daniel watched this with barely concealed contempt. "Is this necessary?" "Yes," Marianne said. He looked at me. "Emma, can we speak alone?" "No." His eyes moved to my grandmother, then Ethan. "So this is what we are now, a board meeting. This is what happens when you give my property to your mistress." Pain crossed his face, or something shaped like it. "I made a mistake. You made a series of choices. Chloe did not know what that ring was. You did." He exhaled. I was angry. At me. At everything. He snapped. Then he lowered his voice. "At the pressure, at the company, at your constant judgment." I almost admired the attempt. "My judgment paid your rent." His mouth shut. Ethan smiled faintly. Daniel noticed and flushed. "You have no idea what I built," he said. "I know exactly what I funded." He leaned forward. "And there it is, the money. I always knew one day you would throw it in my face." "No," I said. "You knew one day I would count it." That landed. For 6 years. Daniel had confused my generosity with amnesia. He turned to Marianne. "What does she want?" Marianne looked at me. I answered, "Separation, full financial disclosure, return of all personal property, no contact outside counsel, no access to my accounts, no use of marital funds for Chloe Vaughan." Daniel laughed without humor. "You cannot dictate who I see." "No," I said, "I can dictate what my money pays for." He stood. "You think the Hales care about you? They care about punishing me because I embarrassed their name." My grandmother finally spoke. "You did not know our name yesterday." Daniel's face tightened. She continued, "And you did not embarrass us. You revealed yourself." For a moment, he looked like he wanted to say something unforgivable. Then he picked up his coat. At the door, he turned back to me. "Chloe is pregnant." The room went still. Daniel watched me carefully, waiting for the wound to open. I looked at him. "Then you should stop spending my money on her apartment and start buying diapers." His face changed, not because I was cruel, because I did not collapse. After he left, I walked to the window. Snow had started again outside, soft against the glass. Behind me, Marianne said, "We need to verify everything before responding to the pregnancy claim." I nodded. My hand closed around the returned ring. For years, I had been afraid that calling the Hales would mean admitting I had no one. I was beginning to understand the opposite. The more truth I allowed into the room, the less alone I became. Daniel's company occupied the top floor of a renovated brick building downtown. I had painted the first office myself before they moved there, not metaphorically, literally. Daniel had been too broke to hire contractors after signing the lease. He and his partner at the time had argued for 2 days about whether they could afford chairs. I had taken a week off from my restoration work, worn old jeans, and painted 3 rooms in warm white because Daniel wanted clients to feel clean luxury. He later told a business magazine that he had built the company with nothing but grit. I was not mentioned, neither was the $40,000 I wired for the lease deposit or the client list I helped organize or the hotel executive I introduced him to through a museum donor, or the nights I sat on the floor stuffing proposal folders because he said he could not trust interns to do it right. On Thursday, Marianne sent a formal preservation letter to Daniel's company, instructing them not to delete emails, financial records, payroll documents, expense reports, internal messages, or files related to my contributions, Chloe Vaughan, or marital funds. Daniel called within 3 minutes. I did not answer. He called Marianne next. She put him on speaker because I was in her office reviewing documents. "This is harassment," Daniel said. "No," Marianne replied. "It is a preservation notice. My company has nothing to do with my marriage. Then the records will show that." A pause. He hated sentences like that. "I will not have Emma digging through confidential client data. We are not requesting client data at this stage." "At this stage," he repeated. "At this stage." His voice lowered. "Put my wife on the phone." "No, I know she is there." Marianne looked at me. I shook my head. "She will not be speaking to you directly." Daniel laughed once. "This is ridiculous. She was never involved in operations." I leaned toward the phone. Marianne muted the line. "Do you want to answer that?" "Yes." She unmuted. I said, "Daniel, do you remember who wrote the bellwether proposal?" Silence. I continued. "Do you remember who stayed up until 3 fixing the budget tables because you sent the wrong deck to the wrong investor?" His breathing changed. "Do you remember who called Marian Ellis when your first venue contract collapsed?" "Emma," he warned. "Do you remember who transferred payroll when your account was overdrawn?" He said nothing. "Do you remember who signed the personal guarantee for the warehouse event because you said it was only temporary?" Marianne's pen paused. That one she had not known yet. Daniel recovered badly. "That guarantee was released. Send proof." He hung up. Marianne turned to me. "Personal guarantee." I closed my eyes. "I forgot." "You forgot." I wanted to forget. There were many things like that in my marriage. Small humiliations folded away because I needed to get through the next day. Daniel asking me to sign because the vendor trusted married stability. Daniel saying no one would ever come after me because he would handle everything. Daniel promising to remove my name after the event. Had he? I did not know. That became another document request. By afternoon, my inbox had become an excavation site. Old emails, scanned checks, bank confirmations, contract drafts. Messages from Daniel that now looked different under legal light. "Can you move 25K today? I will put it back next month. Do not mention your contribution at dinner. Investors get weird about spouse money. Need your signature on this. Just a formality. Mom's procedure is expensive. I hate asking, but you know I have no one else. You know I would do the same for you." But he had not done the same for me, not once. At 5, I found the email that changed Marianne's expression completely. It was from Daniel to Chloe, sent 4 months before the snowstorm. Subject: Re Emma. Chloe had written, "She still has access to the old Hale Trust stuff." Daniel replied, "Technically yes, but she never touches it. Her father messed her up about that family. She thinks they hate her. It is better that way." I read it 3 times. It is better that way, not ignorance. Strategy. Daniel had known the Hales existed. He had known I was afraid to contact them. He had benefited from that fear. Chloe's reply was worse. "Good. Last thing we need is her remembering she has options." My hands went cold in a way the hospital blankets could not fix. Marianne printed the email. Ethan, who had been reviewing corporate filings across the table, looked up. "What is it?" I handed him the page. His face hardened. "My grandmother read it last. She did not speak for a long time. Then she said, 'He isolated you.' I wanted to deny it. The instinct was still there. Daniel had never forbidden me from calling the Hales. He had never locked away my phone. He had never said, 'You may not have family.' He had simply repeated what my father taught me. 'They do not want you. They would judge you. They would use you. You are safer with me.' Control did not always arrive as a locked door. Sometimes it arrived as the only voice you trusted. That night, Daniel's company sent a response through their attorney denying wrongdoing and calling my claims emotionally motivated. They claimed all transfers from me were marital support voluntarily offered with no expectation of repayment or ownership. Marianne read it aloud. I almost laughed at the phrase voluntarily offered. Can we prove expectation? She asked. I opened another folder. Yes, there were texts. Daniel, I know this is a loan. I will document properly after the gala. Daniel, you should have equity for this. We will fix it once cash flow settles. Daniel, I hate that your money is carrying my dream. I promise I will make it right. Promise after promise, none fulfilled. Marianne smiled for the first time since I met her. Good girl, my grandmother said softly. The words hit me unexpectedly, not because I needed praise, because no one had called me good without wanting something from me in years. The following day, Chloe arrived at Daniel's office wearing a fitted red dress and no shame. I knew because one of Daniel's junior employees, a woman named Priya, messaged me privately. I am sorry to bother you. I saw what happened online indirectly. I think you should know Chloe is telling staff she is the future Mrs. Pierce and that you are unstable. She said Daniel is only waiting for legal cleanup. I stared at the message. Then another came. Also, there is a company anniversary gala next Friday. She is choosing the spouse table seating. The spouse table, my seat. Not because I wanted it, because I had paid for it. I typed back carefully. Thank you for telling me. Please do not risk your job. If you are willing to speak to my attorney confidentially, I can connect you. Priya agreed. That was how the wall began to crack, not with a dramatic confession, with one woman tired of watching another woman erased. By Monday, 3 employees had spoken to Marianne. All confirmed Chloe and Daniel's relationship appeared intimate long before the snowstorm. One had seen Daniel reimburse Chloe for personal clothing through company expenses. Another had processed payments to her apartment building labeled client housing. Then Priya sent the seating chart for the gala. At table 1, Daniel Pierce, Chloe Vaughan, Linda Pierce, major investors, no Emma Pierce. I looked at my name missing from the room I had helped build. Then I looked at the date, Friday. Marianne said, we can stop him before the gala. I thought about it. Daniel wanted a clean stage. Chloe wanted my seat. Linda wanted me silent. For 6 years, I had prevented scenes. Maybe that was why they believed I feared them. No, I said, let them set the table. Daniel came to the house 3 days before the gala. I had moved out by then, but I returned with Ruth to collect the last of my restoration tools from the garage. I needed the fine brushes, the magnifying lamp, the Japanese paper I used for delicate textile repairs. My mother's coat would need professional care after Chloe's lipstick and perfume, and I had decided I would restore it myself. Not because the coat mattered more than my safety, because touching damaged things without destroying them was something I knew how to do. Ruth was in the kitchen photographing the wine fridge, which Daniel had apparently stocked with bottles charged to our joint account after I froze his card. I was in the garage when I heard the front door open. Emma, my body knew his voice before my mind did. It tensed. Ruth appeared at the garage door. Stay where you are, she said. Daniel walked in anyway. He looked different, less polished. His hair was damp from rain. His eyes were red, though whether from grief, anger, or lack of sleep, I did not know. When he saw Ruth, his mouth twisted. You hired security against me. I brought a witness. I am your husband. You keep saying that as if it helps your case. He flinched. Good. Can we talk like human beings? He asked. Ruth stood between us but slightly to the side. I put a brush roll into my bag. Talk. He looked at Ruth. Privately, no. His control slipped for half a second. Do you understand what you are doing to me? There it was again, to me. Not what I had suffered, not what he had done, what consequences were doing to him. I understand what I am doing for myself. He stepped closer. Ruth moved. Daniel stopped. Chloe is scared, he said. I laughed softly. That is your opening. She is pregnant, Emma. You told me. She is under stress because of your attorney. She should contact her own attorney. His jaw worked. You are being cruel. I zipped the tool bag. Daniel, you gave her my mother's ring. I returned it. You let her wear my mother's coat. I said I was sorry. No, you said it was one bad night. He dragged both hands through his hair. I do not know what you want from me. That was the first honest thing he had said. For years, he had known exactly what I wanted: a partner, respect, warmth, the truth. Those things had been too inconvenient, so now he pretended I was mysterious. I want full financial disclosure, I said. I want my premarital contributions accounted for. I want no contact from Chloe. I want you to stop using marital assets to support her. I want a divorce. The last word landed harder in the garage than it had in the lawyer's office. Daniel stared. You do not mean that. I do. No. He shook his head. You are hurt, you are letting your grandmother fill your head, you always do this, you shut down then you regret it. Ruth's eyes flicked to me. I stayed calm. I have never done this before. He stepped around a stack of storage boxes. Because this is not you. This is the first thing that has felt like me in years. His face changed then, something uglier came through. You think the Hales will keep you once this gets messy, once they see how needy you are, how anxious, how you cling. The words were old knives. He knew where to put them. For a second I was 22 again, crying in Daniel's apartment because my father had died and I had no one to call. Daniel had held me then. He had said, "You have me now." I had mistaken possession for shelter. I took out my phone and set it on the workbench, camera facing him. "Repeat that," I said. His eyes dropped to the phone. "Are you recording me?" "Yes." "You need my consent." "Not in this state if I am part of the conversation." His mouth opened then closed. He looked at Ruth. She smiled without warmth. Daniel backed away. "Fine," he said. "Record this. If you go through with the divorce, I will make sure everyone knows you abandoned my mother after everything she did for you." "What did she do for me?" "She treated you like family. She treated me like staff. She is ill. She has a son." His face darkened. "You are not taking the house. The court will decide. I built that house. I paid the down payment. I paid the mortgage, with money from a company I funded." He moved fast then, not toward me exactly, toward the phone. Ruth caught his wrist before he reached it. "Step back," she said. Daniel froze. I stared at his hand, suspended inches from my phone. That was when I fully understood he was afraid, not of losing love, of being recorded, of being counted, of being seen. Ruth released him slowly. "You should leave," she said. Daniel looked at me. For 1 second I thought he might apologize, a real one, a clean one. Instead he said, "You will regret humiliating me." I picked up the phone. "No," I said, "I regret protecting you." He left. We filed a police report that evening about the attempted phone grab and documented the confrontation for the divorce case. Nothing dramatic happened. No arrest, no movie scene, just a report number. But that report number mattered. A boundary became real when paper carried it. The next morning Linda called from a new number. I answered because Marianne was beside me and recording was legally permitted. Linda did not say hello. "Emma, Daniel came home shaking last night." I said nothing. "You have pushed him too far." Still nothing. "He made mistakes." Yes, men do, but a wife does not destroy her husband over embarrassment. I looked at Marianne. She nodded for me to continue. "Linda, your son locked me outside in a snowstorm. He opened the door after I called for help. You always were dramatic." There it was, the family verdict. Dramatic meant injured but inconvenient. Dramatic meant harmed in a way that required accountability. Dramatic meant refusing to return quietly. I said, "Did you see Chloe wearing my coat?" A pause. "That is not the point." "It is my point." She was cold. So was I. Linda inhaled sharply. "You were outside for minutes. Barefoot. You should have put on shoes before storming out." I closed my eyes. Marianne wrote something on her pad. I asked, "Did I storm out or did Daniel put me out?" Silence. "Linda, you upset him. Answer the question." She hung up. Marianne saved the call file. I sat back. It hurt. Even after everything, it hurt. Not because I loved Linda. I was not sure I ever had. But I had cared for her body when she was weak. I had learned her medications, cooked her low-sodium meals, driven her to appointments, listened to her complain about nurses and neighbors and old friends who did not call enough. She had watched me barefoot in the snow and still found a way to blame my feet. That afternoon, Chloe made her move. She posted a photo of herself in a pale dress, one hand over her stomach, no caption except a white heart. Within an hour, Daniel's company employees were whispering. Linda shared it with the comment, "Blessings arrive in difficult seasons." A blessing. That was what they called the child allegedly conceived while Daniel was married to me. I did not respond. Marianne sent a notice demanding that Daniel preserve all communications and documents related to Chloe's pregnancy claim, any financial support given to her, and any attempt to move marital assets in anticipation of divorce. At 11:47 p.m. Priya sent another message. "I think they are planning to announce Chloe at the gala." Below it was a screenshot of a draft program, special recognition, Chloe Vaughn, partner in growth, partner. Daniel had always loved careful words. I forwarded it to Marianne. Then I opened the velvet pouch holding my hail ring. I slipped it onto my finger for the first time in my adult life. It fit, not perfectly, but enough. Linda asked for one family dinner before the gala. She did not call it a trap. People rarely do. Her message came through Marianne because Daniel had finally learned that direct access created evidence. Mrs. Pierce requests a private family meeting to reduce conflict and avoid unnecessary legal escalation. Marianne read it aloud and snorted softly. My grandmother said, "No." I said, "Yes." Both women looked at me. "I want to hear them say it," I said. Marianne studied my face. "You do not need to put yourself through that." "I know." "Then why?" "Because they have been speaking for me for years. I want a room where I answer." So we set rules: neutral location, a private dining room at a restaurant, not Linda's house. Marianne in the building, though not at the table unless called. Ruth seated in the lobby. I would drive separately. I would leave whenever I wanted. Daniel objected to every condition. I accepted none of his objections. The dinner took place in a dim room with dark green walls and brass lamps over a polished table. Linda sat at the head as if she had paid for the room. Daniel sat to her right. Chloe sat beside him, wearing a cream dress and a cardigan buttoned delicately over her stomach. My mother's coat was not on her shoulders, but she had chosen white. Of course she had. Daniel stood when I entered. I did not let that soften me. Linda's eyes dropped to my hand and saw the hail ring. Her mouth tightened. "Emma," she said, "you look well." "I am recovering." Chloe lowered her eyes. "I am glad." I sat across from Daniel. "No one touched the bread," Linda began. "This family has suffered enough public embarrassment." I almost smiled. "Not harm, embarrassment," she continued. "Daniel is prepared to take responsibility for certain mistakes." "Certain mistakes?" Daniel looked at me with tired eyes. "I should not have locked the door," he said. The room went still. It was the first time he had said the words plainly. "Then he ruined it. But you have to admit you escalated the situation." I leaned back. "How?" "You accused Chloe in front of everyone. She was wearing my coat." Chloe spoke softly. "I said I was sorry." "You said you were sorry after I was hospitalized." Her cheeks flushed. Daniel's hand moved toward hers under the table, then stopped when he remembered I could see. Linda cleared her throat. "We cannot undo that night. What matters now is the future." "Whose future?" "The child's." Linda said. There it was. Chloe placed a hand over her stomach. Daniel looked at me as if waiting for me to break. I did not. Linda continued. "Chloe is pregnant. Daniel intends to be present. We hope you will handle the divorce with dignity." "With dignity?" I repeated. "Yes," Linda said. "No public accusations, no attempt to damage the company, no dragging private pain through court when a fair settlement can be reached quietly." "And what settlement do you consider fair?" Daniel pushed a folder across the table. I did not open it. Linda did. She slid out a typed summary. I scanned it. They wanted me to leave the house to Daniel because Chloe would need stability during pregnancy. They wanted me to waive any claim to company equity because my contributions were gifts within marriage. They wanted mutual non-disparagement, no further inquiry into Chloe's expenses, no discussion of the snowstorm, and a modest lump sum Daniel would pay over 5 years. 5 years. He owed me more than that in documented transfers alone. I looked up. "Who wrote this?" Daniel said. "My attorney drafted a starting point." "No attorney would write this unless instructed by someone shameless." His eyes flashed. Linda leaned forward. "Emma, do not be greedy." That word almost made me laugh. Greedy, for wanting my own money back, for wanting the house I helped buy, for wanting the truth of a night that could have ended with me frozen on a porch. I opened my bag. Daniel stiffened. I took out 3 folders. Not all my evidence, just enough. First, the bank record showing payments from our joint account to Chloe's apartment. Second, the screenshot of Chloe wearing my hail ring. Third, the photo of Chloe in my mother's coat beside the fireplace while Daniel's text told me to stay outside. I placed them on the table one by one. Linda went pale. Chloe whispered, "Emma, please." Daniel stared at the photo. It was one thing to know what he had done, another to see it framed in stillness, me outside, her inside, the coat between us like a verdict. "You want dignity," I said. "Then start by telling the truth." Daniel's voice was low. "Put those away." "No. This is a private dinner." "Then privately answer, did you use marital funds to pay Chloe's rent?" Chloe gripped her napkin. Daniel said, "It was temporary housing for work." "Did she live there alone?" "No." Answer. "Did you give her my hail ring?" I returned it. "Did you give it to her?" His jaw tightened. "Yes." Linda closed her eyes. I turned to her. "Did you see him lock me outside?" She opened them. "I saw you both arguing." "Did you see him lock the door?" Chloe said. "This is cruel." I looked at her. "You are wearing white to a dinner where you are asking me to leave my marriage quietly because you say you are pregnant by my husband. Do not lecture me about cruelty." Her eyes filled this time. No one rushed to comfort her. Daniel noticed that was the first shift, a small one, but real. I opened the last folder. Inside were transfer summaries from my personal accounts to Daniel's company. I am not signing your settlement, I said. I am not leaving the house for Chloe. I am not waiving my claims. I am not hiding the snowstorm. I am not pretending your child, if there is a child, erases what you did before that claim appeared. Linda stared at the numbers. Daniel, she said quietly. What is this? He did not look at her. I stood. The dinner was over. Daniel stood too. Emma. I looked at him across the table. Do you know what I realized in the snow? His face tightened. That the cold was not new, it was only honest. I left before anyone could answer. In the lobby, Marianne stood. How did it go? I handed her Daniel's settlement proposal. They put their greed in writing. Her smile was sharp. Excellent. As we walked toward the door, my phone buzzed. An unknown email. Subject: Chloe. Vaughan. Medical documentation. Attached was a PDF. No message, just the file. I opened it in the car. At first glance it looked like a pregnancy confirmation, but the clinic name was wrong. I had been to that clinic once with Linda. It had closed 2 years ago. Marianne's first rule was simple. We do not accuse anyone of faking a pregnancy without proof. I agreed. A false accusation would make Chloe a victim again, and she was already skilled enough at that role. We needed facts, not satisfaction. The PDF she sent was not a medical record, it was a prop. The clinic had closed 2 years earlier. The letterhead used an old logo. The doctor named on the form had retired before the date listed. It did not prove Chloe was not pregnant. It proved the document presented to Daniel's family was unreliable. The question was why. Maybe she is pregnant and used a fake document because she has not seen a doctor, Ethan said. Maybe, Marianne replied. Or maybe she needed leverage quickly. I sat at the conference table looking at the file. Daniel had believed it. Or claimed to. Linda had believed it because it gave her a grandchild and a reason to push me out. Chloe had used it to request stability, which meant the house, money, and legitimacy. A child, real or not, had become a weapon. I hated all of them for that, not with dramatic fire, with a clean disgust. Marianne sent a formal request to Daniel's attorney since Mr. Pierce had raised Ms. Vaughan's pregnancy as a factor in proposed settlement terms and housing requests. Any claims affecting marital asset division must be supported by proper documentation through counsel. Daniel called Marianne within the hour. This time she did not put him on speaker for long. He was shouting, I heard enough. How dare she question Chloe's pregnancy, Marianne said. Your settlement proposal references it as justification for transferring housing rights. That is family information. Then do not use it as a legal bargaining chip. He lowered his voice, but anger still cut through. Emma is punishing an unborn child. Marianne looked at me. I shook my head. She said, Emma is asking you to stop using unverified claims to pressure her into surrendering property. He hung up. By evening, he texted me from a new number. Daniel, there are lines you do not cross. I forwarded it, then I blocked the number. The next day, the court granted a temporary order preventing Daniel from selling, refinancing, transferring, or encumbering major marital assets without notice. He found out when his attempt to begin paperwork on a home equity line triggered an alert. That afternoon, he appeared at my grandmother's hotel. Security stopped him in the lobby. He sent one message through his attorney afterward. Mr. Pierce requests an urgent meeting. He states Mrs. Pierce's actions have placed his company and family in immediate financial distress. Marianne read it with visible boredom. His distress is not a legal emergency. But it told us something important. He had tried to borrow against the house. Why? Ethan found the answer buried in corporate filings and vendor records. Daniel's company was cash poor. The hotel contract he had celebrated was not yet paid. Several events had gone over budget. Chloe's apartment, travel, clothing reimbursements, and client development expenses had drained more than expected. My cancelled transfers exposed a hole he had hidden. He did not need the house for Chloe. He needed the house for collateral. The pregnancy announcement had been emotional cover for financial desperation. When Marianne explained it, I felt strangely calm. Daniel had locked me out because he thought I was disposable, but he had kept me close for years because I was useful. Those were not opposites. They were the same belief. Useful things could be mistreated if they could not leave. That night, I went to my grandmother's suite for dinner. It was the first meal in weeks that did not taste like metal. Margaret Hale ate slowly, asked about my feet, and did not once tell me what to do. After dinner, she brought out a wooden box. I should have given you this years ago," she said. Inside were letters, my mother's letters, some written to Margaret, some written to me, sealed and never sent because my father had moved us before the Hales could deliver them. My hands shook as I opened the first. My mother's handwriting was rounded, firm, familiar from birthday cards I had kept in a showbox. "My darling Emma, if you are reading this when you are older, I hope you know love should never require you to disappear." I stopped there, the room blurred. Margaret sat beside me, not touching until I leaned slightly toward her. Then she placed one hand over mine. "I disappeared," I whispered. "No," she said, "you survived." The next morning I made a decision, not about Daniel, about myself. I called the director of the private restoration studio where I had once consulted before marriage. The owner, Helen Morris, answered with surprise and warmth. "Emma, my God, I was just thinking about you last month. We have a textile conservation project coming in. I know it has been years, but if you ever wanted to do part-time work again." "Yes," I said. She paused. Yes, I do." For the first time since the snowstorm, the future did not look like a courtroom. It looked like a table, light, tools, fabric, patient hands, something mine. That afternoon, Priya sent the final gala program. Daniel had changed Chloe's title, not assistant, not partner in growth, acting director of client relations. At the bottom of the program was a tribute video section, the Pierce story, built from nothing. Built from nothing. I forwarded it to Marianne. Then I opened my email archive and found photographs from the first office. Me in paint-stained jeans, Daniel laughing beside empty desks, my hands holding the first printed proposal. I found the wire transfer receipt for the lease. I found the email where Daniel wrote, "Could not have done this without you. One day everyone will know." One day apparently had arrived. Marianne asked, "Are you sure?" We were sitting in her office late Thursday night outside. The city lights blurred in rain. I thought about privacy. I thought about dignity. I thought about the way women are trained to protect the reputations of men who destroy their peace. Then I thought about standing barefoot in the snow while Chloe warmed herself in my mother's coat. "Yes," I said, "but we do it cleanly, no screaming, no scene for the sake of a scene, no revenge built on lies, just documents, just truth." The next evening I dressed in black, not mourning, clarity. I put on the Hale ring. Marianne arrived with a folder. Ethan arrived with 2 printed binders and a secure drive. My grandmother looked at me before we left. "You do not have to prove pain to deserve protection," she said. "I know, do you?" I looked at my reflection in the window. For years, I had wanted Daniel to understand what he had done. Now I understood something better. His understanding was not required for my freedom. "Yes," I said, "I do." The anniversary gala was held in the ballroom of the Wexford Hotel, one of Daniel's biggest clients. I knew the room well. I had helped him choose it 3 years earlier for a charity event when his company was still too small to impress anyone. I remembered standing under the crystal chandeliers with a clipboard while Daniel whispered that one day he would host his own gala there. I had believed in him so completely that his dream became part of my labor. That night, the ballroom glittered, round tables dressed in ivory linen, tall arrangements of white branches and winter roses, a stage at the front with a massive screen behind it, a string quartet near the bar, servers moving with champagne trays, investors, clients, employees, local media, and Chloe. She stood near Daniel in a satin champagne gown, one hand resting lightly over her stomach, smiling as if she had practiced gentleness in a mirror. Daniel wore a black tuxedo. He saw me 10 seconds after I entered. His smile died. Chloe followed his gaze. For one brief moment, fear showed through her makeup. Then she recovered and leaned into Daniel's arm. "Good, let her choose the stage." My grandmother entered beside me. Ethan followed. Marianne was already inside, speaking quietly with a hotel legal representative near the side wall. Ruth stood near the entrance. We were not there to cause chaos. We were there to prevent the truth from being buried under chandeliers. Daniel crossed the room toward me before anyone else could. "What are you doing here?" he hissed. I looked around. "Attending the gala for the company I funded." His eyes flicked to my grandmother. "This is a private event." My name was on the original sponsor list. I removed it. "Yes," I said, "I saw." His face tightened. "Emma, if you try to embarrass me tonight, you will regret it." I almost pitied him. He still thought fear was a key that fit me. "I am not here to embarrass you," I said. "I am here to correct the record." Daniel leaned closer. "Leave." "No." He reached for my elbow, then remembered the cameras, the guests, the witnesses. His hand dropped. Chloe arrived at his side. "Emma," she said, soft enough for nearby guests to hear, "this is not the place." I looked at her hand, no ring, no coat. She had learned to hide stolen things. This is exactly the place, I said. A photographer turned toward us. Daniel smiled instantly. Everything is fine, he said. There it was again. The sentence men use when they need everyone to ignore a woman's face. I smiled too. For now. The program began at 7:30. Daniel took the stage to applause. He was good at public warmth. He thanked clients, staff, partners, and his mother. He spoke about resilience, loyalty, and the people who believed when there was nothing to believe in. Then the screen played the tribute video, the Pierce story, built from nothing, photos of Daniel in the first office, Daniel shaking hands, Daniel at events, Daniel with clients, Daniel smiling beside Chloe in recent months, carefully framed as professional. Not one photo of me, not even my hand, not even a corner of my face. At our table, my grandmother was very still. Ethan leaned toward me. Last chance. I looked at the screen, built from nothing. No, I said. First chance. Daniel returned to the microphone. There is someone special I need to thank tonight, he said. Chloe lowered her eyes at the front table. People smiled knowingly. My stomach did not twist, it settled. Chloe Vaughn, Daniel said, extending his hand. She rose to applause, one hand on her stomach, the other taking his. She joined this company during one of the most demanding seasons of my life. Daniel continued. Her loyalty, dedication, and belief in our future have changed everything. Our future. A murmur moved through the room. Daniel looked toward me just once, a warning, then he said, Chloe is not only part of Pierce strategic events, she is part of my life, and soon part of my family. Linda began clapping first. A few others followed uncertainly. Chloe wiped a tear. That was when Marianne walked to the hotel technician. The screen behind Daniel went black. Daniel turned, startled, then a new slide appeared, timeline of documented contributions and incidents. A sound moved through the ballroom, not a gasp, a collective intake of attention. Daniel's face drained. Marianne stepped onto the stage from the side, holding a microphone the hotel manager had provided under legal notice. Good evening, she said. My name is Marianne Brooks. I represent Emma Hale, formerly presented in this company's early financial and operational records as Emma Pierce. Daniel moved toward her. Cut the microphone. The hotel manager did not move. Marianne continued, calm as winter. We are not here to disrupt legitimate business. We are here to address false representations made in this program and to serve formal notices regarding financial preservation, marital asset protection, and pending civil claims. The next slide appeared, a wire transfer receipt. $40,000 from my personal premarital account to Daniel's company lease escrow, then another $25,000, then another. Emails from Daniel. I know this is a loan. You should have equity for this. Could not have done this without you. The room changed. People stopped looking at Daniel with admiration and began looking with calculation. Investors hate surprises, clients hate scandals, but most of all, people hate realizing they applauded a lie. Daniel grabbed the microphone stand. This is my wife's emotional breakdown, he said loudly. I apologize to everyone. My grandmother stood. She did not raise her voice. I am Margaret Hale. That name moved through the room faster than any shout. The Hales owned hotels, heritage properties, restoration foundations, and enough quiet influence that Daniel had once called them old money ghosts at a dinner party. He had not known he was married to one. Margaret continued. My granddaughter is not having a breakdown. She is presenting documents. The next slide appeared, a photo, Chloe in my mother's white coat by the fireplace, timestamp visible, then Daniel's text, stop embarrassing me, stay out there until you calm down, then the emergency report. Female found barefoot outside during snowstorm, possible hypothermia. No one clapped now, no one moved. Chloe made a small sound. Daniel looked at me with naked hatred, but beneath it was fear. The screen showed one final image, the exterior camera still from the rental porch, acquired through the property management company after Marianne's preservation request. Daniel inside the glass, me outside, Chloe in white behind him, the whole marriage in one frame. I stood then, not on stage. I did not need the stage. The room turned toward me anyway. My attorney has served the necessary notices, I said. My voice shook once, then steadied. I will not discuss private medical claims, alleged pregnancies, or divorce details in public. I will say this. I will no longer allow my work, my money, my family history, or my silence to be used to protect a lie. Daniel whispered. Emma. I looked at him. You locked me out in the snow while she wore my mother's coat. You thought I had no one to call. His face twisted. I was wrong about that, I said. And so were you. I walked out before the room could decide what to do with its shock. Behind me the applause did not start. That was fine. I had not come for applause. I had come to open the door. Daniel came to the courthouse looking like a man who had not slept. I came with documents. That difference mattered. The emergency hearing was not a divorce trial. Marianne had warned me not to expect one scene to settle everything. Real endings were slower, messier, filed in triplicate, but the hearing addressed temporary financial restraints, exclusive use of the marital home, communication boundaries, preservation of company records, and Daniel's use of marital funds. Chloe was not present. Her attorney was. That told us enough. Daniel sat across the conference room table before the hearing began, his own attorney beside him. He stared at me as if trying to summon the woman who used to apologize when he looked tired. She did not come. His attorney, Mr. Keene, began politely. My client regrets the emotional escalation that led to the incident at the mountain property. Marianne said, your client locked my client outside barefoot during a snowstorm. Keene adjusted his glasses. We dispute characterization. We have the text, medical report, witness statement, and property camera footage. Daniel looked down. Keene moved on. Mr. Pierce is willing to agree to temporary no-contact boundaries regarding Ms. Vaughan's use of marital funds. Ms. Vaughan has already benefited from marital funds, Marianne said. We want accounting and reimbursement. Daniel snapped. She needed help. I looked at him. So did I. He closed his mouth. The judge was practical, which I appreciated. She did not perform outrage. She read, she asked dates, she wanted documentation. She looked at Daniel over her glasses when Marianne presented the mountain incident timeline. Mr. Pierce, she said, did you send this text? Daniel's attorney whispered to him. Daniel answered, yes, Your Honor. Was your wife outside when you sent it? Yes, but was she barefoot? I did not realize. Was she wearing winter clothing? Daniel hesitated. No. The judge looked at the photo of Chloe in the coat. Was Ms. Vaughan wearing Mrs. Pierce's coat? Daniel's face flushed. Yes. The judge set the paper down. The order was not everything I wanted, but it was enough for the next step. Temporary exclusive access to the marital home was granted to me, though I did not intend to live there. Daniel was restrained from using marital assets for Chloe. Major asset transfers required notice. Company records related to my claimed contributions had to be preserved. Communication would remain through counsel except emergencies. The judge also noted the mountain incident as relevant to temporary safety arrangements. Relevant, a legal word, a small, solid bridge between private pain and public record. After the hearing, Daniel waited near the hallway windows. Marianne stepped slightly ahead of me. He lifted both hands. I am not trying to start anything. I stopped because I wanted to choose my ending, not flee from his presence forever. He looked smaller in daylight. I ended things with Chloe, he said. I said nothing. She lied about some things. Still nothing. The pregnancy documentation, I did not know it was fake. I watched his face. Is she pregnant? He swallowed. I do not know. There it was. The child who had been used to push me out of my house had become an uncertainty the moment it stopped being useful. That is between you and her, I said. He flinched. Emma, I know I cannot fix what happened overnight. You cannot fix it at all. I was under pressure. So was I. I made terrible choices. Yes. His eyes filled then, maybe real tears, maybe not. I had spent too many years trying to distinguish between his feelings and his tactics. I was done. I miss you, he said. I believed him in a way. He missed the version of me who softened rooms before he entered them. He missed the bank transfers, the clean house, the managed mother, the wife who made him look loyal because she never told people how lonely she was. He missed being loved without being accountable. I do not miss myself with you, I said. That hurt him more than anger would have. He took something from inside his coat, my mother's white coat, cleaned badly, folded over his arms. I had it treated, he said. I wanted to return it myself. For a moment, the hallway disappeared. I saw Chloe by the fire, lipstick on the collar, snow under my feet. Then I looked closer. The coat was not ruined, but it was not right either. The fabric near the collar had been scrubbed too harshly. The pearl button at the top had been replaced with one that did not match. Daniel had tried to repair damage the same way he apologized, late, carelessly, and mostly for himself. I did not take it from him. Marianne did. She documented the return. Daniel looked devastated that I would not touch it. Emma, he said, please, we were not always bad. That was the cruelest true thing. We had not always been bad. There had been mornings with coffee, rainy Sundays, his hand warm at my back. Plans whispered in bed, the first office, the first check, the first time he called me his home. But a relationship does not survive on the memory of who someone was when they wanted to be loved. It dies by what they do when they think they can get away with it. No, I said, we were not always bad. His eyes lifted. I continued, that is why I stayed too long. I walked away. This time he did not follow. The months that followed were not glamorous. That part matters. There were no instant victories, no single document that made Daniel vanish, no magical courtroom speech that repaired my nervous system. There were depositions, financial reviews, mediation sessions where Daniel's attorney tried to reframe loans as gifts. Chloe's attorney claimed she had believed Daniel was separated. Then emails proved otherwise. The pregnancy claim disappeared quietly, no explanation, no apology. Priya left Daniel's company and gave a formal statement. 2 other employees followed. One investor withdrew, another demanded an audit. The Wexford Hotel suspended new work with Daniel pending review, not because of morality, but because undisclosed financial disputes made him a risk. That was enough. Daniel's company did not collapse overnight. It bled slowly, like I had. Linda sent one letter through counsel asking for healing. In it, she wrote that she had always loved me as a daughter. Marianne asked if I wanted to respond. I said no, some lies do not deserve the dignity of correction. I began working 3 days a week at Helen's restoration studio. The first project was a 19th century wedding veil damaged by smoke. I spent hours under clean light, lifting soot from lace with tools so delicate they barely seemed to touch. No one rushed me, no one asked me to transfer money, no one told me I was dramatic when I identified damage. One afternoon Helen watched me work and said, "You have very steady hands." I almost laughed. If only she knew what they had carried. My mother's coat stayed wrapped in acid-free tissue for weeks before I could face it. When I finally unfolded it, I did not cry. I assessed lipstick residue near the collar, stress at the shoulder seam, harsh cleaning abrasion, one mismatched button, damage. Yes, not destruction. I began with the button. I found the original in the pocket. Daniel's cleaner had missed it. Of course they had. The right pieces are often still there if you stop letting careless people handle them. The divorce was finalized 11 months after the snowstorm. By then, winter had returned. Not the violent mountain kind, a quiet city winter with grey light, bare trees and breath visible above coffee cups. I signed the final agreement in Marianne's office. Daniel signed in another room. That was one of my terms. I did not need one last conversation. The agreement was not revenge fantasy. It was better, it was enforceable. I received reimbursement for documented premarital contributions, a structured settlement for funds misused during marriage, my share of the marital home equity after sale, and release from any business guarantees tied to Daniel's company. The court did not grant every claim, courts rarely do, but the record was clear. The money had not been imaginary, the harm had not been private nonsense, the snowstorm had not been a misunderstanding. Daniel kept part of his company, smaller now, damaged, watched by creditors and former clients. He had lost the Wexford contract, he had lost 2 investors, he had lost the story of being a man who built himself alone. Chloe left before the divorce finalized. According to Priya, she took a job in another city, using a different version of the same soft smile. Daniel pursued reimbursement for some expenses after discovering she had manipulated invoices. I did not follow the case closely for a long time. I thought not caring would feel like victory. It felt better than victory. It felt like space. Linda moved into a smaller condo after Daniel sold his house share. She sent one Christmas card to my grandmother's address. On the front was a watercolor dove. Inside she had written, "I hope one day you understand." Everyone was hurting. I placed it in the recycling bin. Understanding did not require reopening the door. On the day the divorce was final, my grandmother asked if I wanted to mark the occasion. I said yes, not with champagne, not with a party. I took my mother's coat to the studio. The restoration was almost done. I had repaired the shoulder seam, replaced the pearl button, lifted the last shadow of lipstick from the collar, and stabilized the rubbed cashmere. Under magnification, the damage remained visible. If you knew where to look, I liked that. Perfect restoration is not erasure, it is honesty with care. Helen let me use the studio after hours. Snow fell beyond the tall windows, soft and slow. I put on cotton gloves and lifted the coat onto the padded form. My mother's embroidered H was still inside the collar, small, steady. Mine. My phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. For a moment, my body reacted before my mind did. Then I opened it. "Daniel, I heard it is final. I do not know what to say except I I'm sorry, I hope one day you remember I loved you. I looked at the message for a long time, then I typed, I remember everything. I did not send it, I deleted the draft, then I blocked the number. Some doors do not need a final slam, they only need to stay closed. That evening I drove to the Hale house. Not the hotel suite, the family house outside the city where I had spent the first 6 summers of my life before grief and lies cut the road in half. The driveway curved through old trees strung with winter lights. The house stood warm against the dark, windows glowing gold. Margaret waited in the doorway with a shawl around her shoulders. You are late, she said. I know, dinner is still warm. I smiled, no guilt, no performance, just warmth waiting without a price. Inside, Ethan was arguing with his teenage daughter about whether cranberry sauce counted as a real food. His wife handed me a glass of cider. Someone had set a place for me near the fire, not at the edge, not as a guest to be tolerated, a place. After dinner my grandmother gave me a box. I raised an eyebrow. Another one. This one is happier. Inside was a key. To what? The carriage house, she said. It has good northern light. Your mother wanted to turn it into a studio once. I looked at her. I cannot accept a house. You are not accepting a house. You are accepting a beginning. Rent it for $1 if pride requires paperwork. Ethan called from across the room. We already drafted the paperwork. I laughed then, really laughed. It startled me. The sound felt unfamiliar but not foreign. 6 months later, Hale Textile Restoration opened in the renovated carriage house. My name on the door was Emma Hale. No Pierce, no hyphen, no apology. The first week, 3 clients came through Helen's referral. The second week, my grandmother sent over an old church banner that needed repair and pretended she was not giving me work. By spring, I had enough projects to hire an assistant. I built slowly, carefully. No one's dream swallowed mine this time. On the anniversary of the snowstorm, I drove alone to Black Pine Ridge, not to the rental house. I had no desire to stand on that porch again. I stopped at the overlook before the turnoff. Pines rolled down the mountain in dark waves. Snow covered the ground, bright under morning sun. The air was cold, but I wore boots, gloves, and my mother's white coat, my restored coat. The collar sat soft against my throat. For a while I simply stood there. I thought I might feel haunted. Instead I felt clear. That night had not made me strong. I had been strong before it. Strong when I survived my mother's death. Strong when I believed my family had abandoned me and kept going anyway. Strong when I built a marriage out of scraps Daniel kept taking. Strong when I loved without being loved properly in return. The snowstorm did not create me, it revealed the lock, and then I opened another door. A car pulled into the overlook behind me. For one sharp second I thought of Daniel, but it was only a family stopping to take pictures. A little girl in a red hat ran past me, laughing as her father warned her not to slip. I smiled and stepped aside. My phone buzzed, a message from my assistant. The museum courier just confirmed delivery for Monday. Also, Mrs. Hale called to remind you dinner is at 7 and said not to work late. Her words, tell my granddaughter I am not asking. I laughed again. Then I looked out over the snow. One last time. There had been a night when Daniel stood inside warmth and decided I belonged outside. He was wrong. I belonged wherever I chose to stand. I turned from the overlook, got into my car and drove home.